Welcome to the Brighter Side of Education. I'm your host, Dr. Lisa Hassler, here to enlighten and brighten the classrooms in America through focused conversation on important topics in education. In each episode, I discuss problems we as teachers and parents are facing and what people are doing in their communities to fix it. What are the variables, and how can we duplicate it to maximize student outcomes? In this episode, I discuss using ChatGPT for lesson planning and administrative tasks to streamline processes for educators and elevate student engagement. Multiple studies confirm what educators already know. There's not enough lesson prep time with the other obligations on a teacher's plate. A 2022 Merrimack College teacher survey found that the average teacher spends 5 hours a week devoted to planning lessons and instruction out of their 54-hour week. Now, this was supported by the Grattan Institute, which surveyed over 2,000 teachers and leaders, finding most teachers spend 6 hours per week simply sourcing and creating materials for lessons, with 25% of teachers spending 10 hours or more. So what can teachers do? Implementing AI tools built specifically for this challenge could offer a lifeline by rapidly generating high-quality lesson materials and plans. Joining me today to discuss how educators can use ChatGPT for lesson plan development and administrative tasks is EdTech AI consultant Jessica Lyons. Jessica teaches high school English and has her master's degrees in English and curriculum design, as well as her administrator's license. Her mission is to bridge the gap between traditional teaching and AI technologies by empowering teachers of all levels and backgrounds with the knowledge and tools they need to make AI accessible and practical. Welcome to the show, Jessica.
Hi.
So tell us a little about yourself and your experience with AI in education.
Sure. I'm just finishing up my 20th year of teaching. And a couple of years ago, I started freelance writing. And then in 2022, when OpenAI released ChatGPT, I was like, wow, this is kind of interesting. And so I wrote an article about it. I mean, a very basic, like, here's what it is.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, there's some things I could do with this because it was so new and I hadn't really seen anything about it. So I started playing around with it, and I got contacted by a couple places like Career Learning, and they wanted to do some webinars. And I thought, okay. And then I just started playing with it and just started a torrid love affair with chat. And there's just no been going back from then. So it's been, only a couple of years, but man, learned a lot.
Yeah. When I first went on, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I was like writing up my first business plans, and I'm like, I don't really know where to begin. And I just threw some things in, and it's like, write me a business plan. And you're like, oh, that's cool. So then you could kind of tweak it after that. Mm-hmm. But that was when I fell in love with ChatGPT myself. So it was pretty amazing stuff.
It is. It really, really is.
So can you explain what ChatGPT is and then how people interact with it?
Sure. So ChatGPT is a powerful language model. That's what the people at OpenAI want to call it. Uh-huh. That stands for Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And it is if you use the free version, which I do because I'm a teacher and I like the free. Yeah. So it's been programmed to chat with you. So it's like having a conversation and you can chat back and forth with the transformer. It's trained up to 2022, although with the new version that's slowly rolling out, it's a little bit more advanced, but the free version doesn't search the internet, but there's not much on there that you could ask about that it would know. And with the newer version, it's starting to incorporate a little bit more visuals into it, but it's a chatbot and you can just have conversations with it and let it help you kind of think through things.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you have that free version, that ChatGPT 4.0, they call it, which I think is a little confusing because there's 4.0 and then there was 4.0.
Right.
And that one just came out. But I was playing with a little bit and it's awesome. Yeah, have you played with it?
I have. Where I'm at, you only get to use it for a little bit of time. And then it says, you've reached your limit.
Yep, me too.
As soon as I get excited about what I'm doing, it's like, I'm sorry, you've reached your limit with it.
Right.
But yeah, it is very exciting. I was able to upload a video, I think it was a basketball video. And I just said, explain the rules to me.
Yeah.
And then chat was able to go through it like that.
Right.
But no, it looks great. I'm really excited for it to completely roll out.
Yes, because there's natural language. You get to pick out the voice and then it talks to you just like we're talking right now. And then you can interrupt her, which is nice. And it can read your emotions. It can see your face and then register the emotions and then have a response based on what emotion it feels as though you have, which I thought was wild.
Yeah.
All right. So what kind of limitations does ChatGPT have and what kind of risks?
Well, limitations, and again, I'm just going to talk about 3.5 just because I can't speak to everything with 4.0 or 4.0, I guess. But the limitations with, like I said, with 3.5 is it is only trained up to 2022.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to ask about the Barbie movie or something, you're not going to get anything on that.
Right.
Which to me, that's really the only limitation. Now, because it's a pre-trained model, it makes mistakes. So you want to check for accuracy, especially if you're like relying on that information. Like if you're doing research, you should always double check your citations and things like that.
What about personal data? Just be careful about what kind of personal data you're putting in there.
Yeah, I tell teachers, just like anything we use, it's going on in the cloud and who knows who can see the cloud. Yeah. So when, my kids use it, I say, let's not put our address or our phone number or, your
social security number, blood type.
Let's just be smart about
mother's maiden name.
Right. I will be home at 9:30. Yeah, exactly. So
just be aware of personal data.
Exactly.
Yeah, what do you want to be seen and shared? And if you don't want it to be shared or to be seen by others, then don't put it on there.
Exactly.
So how can you use ChatGPT to create lesson plans?
I use chat all the time. And every day I think, man, where was this 20 years ago when I was in pre-service training and you had to write those 5-page lesson plans?
Yes.
Chat will do that. Thankfully, once you get out of school, you don't normally have to do that. But if you do, it's there. Right. And he wants to do and I say he because it's a transformer, so it's Bumblebee. That's straight out of being an 80s kid. But he wants to do whatever you ask him to do. He's not going to do any more and he's not going to do any less. So the more specific and detailed you are, the more specific and detailed your output would be. So you could say, chat, write me a lesson plan about mitosis, and it will generate something.
Yeah.
But if you say, write me a lesson plan about mitosis, here's the state standard, here's the assessment I'm going to use, here's the format, he's going to do that exactly for you. It's such an unbelievable lifesaver if you have to create those long lesson plans. It will be as formal as you want it to be. You want it to make the assessments, it'll make the assessments. And it'll naturally give you times. So like, here's your bell ringer, 5 minutes. And, it'll pace that out for you too.
Right. Sometimes I've put things in and I didn't get what I wanted at all. And I think I'm being really clear. So what's the best way to frame questions so that if that happens, you can get better responses?
Well, my mantra, the more specific and detailed you are with your input, the more specific and detailed your output will be. However, you've got to get comfortable with, one, you got to be bossy. And that was something that took me a little bit to do, to be like, this is what I want. Nothing else. This is what I want.
Right.
And then you just refine and you keep refining. Don't be broad. Like put several questions in that you want. Like instead of just saying, tell me about soccer, you can say, tell me about soccer and go through exactly what you want to know. And the more that you work with chat, the more comfortable you get with how you should phrase to get the responses you want.
Yeah.
And at the bottom where it says, did you like this? It's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And then, you can click on it. And my favorite, if you didn't like the response, you have all these choices for why you didn't like it. And obviously, if it's not factually correct, please click that so it can start to train the new model. But I love where it says being lazy because it just like, yes, you are being lazy with that answer, sir. So
Chat, you're being lazy. I'm calling you out.
Exactly. You can call him out on that.
So if I have a conversation and it's not going the way that I want to go, do you ever just like open a new conversation? Is it a different bot that I'm talking to at that point? Do you know anything about that? I've always wondered, like if I just go, I'm ditching you, I want someone else, or is it the same thing?
I don't know. I know that I have done that where I've just been like, I'm not getting the response I want. So I open a new chat, but I don't know. That is so interesting. Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll go do something and I'll come back to the conversation. Should I remind it what information to use again if I want to continue to move forward?
Sometimes, not necessarily. I always tell people to open a new chat if you're changing topics, because he does get confused sometimes. So if you've been talking about science and then you start talking about food, he's going to think that it's science food.
Right, yeah.
So I always tell people to open a new chat. And then there'll be some times where I'll be in the chat and I will type in something like building off of the chat above, or using the thoughts from above respond to this, just to kind of, sometimes just for me to keep it straight and clarify.
Yes. Because like if I'll go back to like an old chat and then I pull it up and maybe I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to do something else with that base of information. I want you to make a rubric with it, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, I kind of feel like, do I need to remind it? Because I haven't visited this in 2 weeks.
Right.
You know, maybe I want to open that back up, or should I just start a whole new one?
Well, for me, it depends on how far along I've gone in the conversation. I did not realize from the beginning that you could name the chats on the side.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, you can rename them. And
oh, that's wonderful. You can organize it.
Yeah, I feel like I have hundreds of chats that just are the first words I've typed in.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And had I known I could like organize, it would have been so much easier.
Yeah.
So when I go back to old chats, the first thing I say is summarize what our chat has been about.
Oh.
And then chat will, do me a summary of what we were talking about there. Because sometimes I can't even find what I was looking for.
Wonderful. Oh, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So then how can it be used to enhance student engagement and then learning outcomes?
It's just an unbelievable game changer. It really is. I cannot speak to the amount of time it saves me and the level of engagement in my classroom. And it's night and day. So one thing that I love to do with it is I like to take whatever we're working with, whether it's a reading passage, whether it's a multiple choice test, whatever, and I'll put it into chat and I will ask it to rewrite it, same context, same skills, just write it for a grade level lower for the Lexile level, and write it for a grade level above. And so then I have a low, medium, and high.
Nice.
And then through whatever learning management system we're using, certain kids get certain versions of it.
Yeah.
And that just in itself, when these kids were able to read the same thing that everybody else is reading, but it's more on an approachable level to them. I mean, classroom conversations became more because they knew what was going on. And so that was just amazing. I love making curriculum. Like I love designing activities, and chat lets me do that because it takes a lot of the other stuff off your plate.
Right.
Just yesterday, I wanted to make a digital escape room for the end of the school year, something easy. And I just went to chat and I said, here's my idea. What are some different ways I can do this? And so it was just a fabulous brainstorming session. And I was able to really look at different ways to do something, just things I wouldn't even have thought of.
Yeah.
And the best is if you don't know even how to do it, I'll copy and paste. There was something about an Excel sheet, which just made my stomach turn because I just can't with those. But so I made chat. I said, okay, now explain to me exactly how step by step to do this. And I'll give you, the step by step with it. And so there's not much I can't make for my kids now that 5-10 years ago, we just couldn't do. We just didn't have the time, the energy, the knowledge. We just couldn't do it. And now for 130 kids, I would never say everybody has a personalized learning plan, but I will say, I know I'm meeting kids on their level now more than I ever have. It's just turned the culture around in the classroom. It really has.
Yeah, and I think also because when you're thinking about someone that has low to no vision, include an accommodation for low to no vision at a first grade level to go with this plan. Or
exactly.
Someone has dyslexia. What kind of accommodation can I do in this lesson plan for that child? So those are wonderful things to brainstorm and help you choose different ideas for. And then your student to say, this will work or this is definitely not going to work.
The idea that now you can ask, very specific, this lesson, what can I do to help this child? It's just mind-blowing.
And then ChatGPT 4.0 has the Be My Eyes add-on that you can put on there, which I saw a commercial for, and it was wild because this gentleman had the phone in front of his face and he was pointing in the direction that he wanted something described. And he would just ask the chat in this natural language, can you describe what's happening? And it was like, oh yeah, so there's ducks and they're in a pond and there's 3 of them and they're going back and forth. And at one one point it was like, I need to get a taxi. Okay, well, I see a taxi coming to you. Now put up your hand. And then great, you got in, you know? So I thought it's like having an assistant there.
It's a personal assistant. You have your personal assistant right there with you.
I love it. So you're thinking like something like that for the classroom would be amazing because they could describe things that were happening in the classroom, like a personal assistant for the student then. So I see it as really being wonderful for the students as well, not only the teachers. But you have something about Ed Puzzles.
Yeah.
What are Ed Puzzles?
So Edpuzzle is an app that educators can upload videos, whether you make them, whether you get them from the internet, wherever it happens to be, and then you put questions in between.
Okay.
I use that with that 3 different ways. One, I use it with the leveling. So if I pull a video from YouTube, I'll grab the transcript as well, and I'll put the transcript into chat. Although now with 4.0, I might not even have to worry about the transcript. I might be able just to, I'll have to play with that. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I know.
I haven't done a video with it yet. I want to try that.
Yeah. And then chat will level questions for me.
Oh.
It will help me decide appropriate questions. It'll timestamp everything for me. And then I can put them in different folders. When I use it with chat, it's just so much more thorough. And it'll give me, like I said, the timestamps and do a multiple choice question here or have kids respond, a voice recording here. And yeah, it just kind of helps you plan it out a little bit more.
How would you use that? Would you do that like whole class or assignments?
There's a couple times where I've done a whole class, but normally it's perfect for like those e-learning days or there's a sub. So you assign the video, it has all the questions in there, the kids respond that way, and yeah.
So what kind of administrative tasks that teachers do can ChatGPT help streamline?
So I like it for inventories. And once I realized I could change the names on the side, I could find the inventory. So it wasn't like I just did a book inventory and then never found it again. But chat will make inventories for you. Just put all that information in there. The most helpful thing for me has been that chat will aggregate my data.
I love that.
You know, when I have all my test scores come in and I'm just given a pile of numbers and I'm told, talk.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what to say. And so I can put it into chat and he will sort it. I will ask, what are 3 guiding questions if I was going to have a discussion with a group about this? Chat will do that for me. You know, where are the strengths, where are the weaknesses? What's the mean or what's the, whatever you want it to do. And man, that
wonderful.
When I realized, I can have my assistant do that and it'll spit it out for me. Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. So the data's great. Anybody will tell you that chat's great when you've had an email from a parent that was not the nicest thing you've ever gotten.
Yeah.
And, you know, we never really know, you know, you can't, it's hard to read tone in an email anyways. And so you want to respond professionally. I personally will put the email into chat and then I will say, this is what I want to say. Please rewrite this so it is a professional and appropriate response to this parent. And then chat will reword it for you. And it is so much nicer.
Yes. I also like it as like a second pair of eyes so that I can grab stuff that I'm working on and throw it in there and just say, review for accuracy and grammar, just to make sure that, you know, because when you are looking at something and you're writing it, you kind of glaze over some little errors there. So I just like it to be able to double check work.
Yeah.
So those are nice to be able to do. Rubrics. I love making a rubric in there where I'll give it the data and then I'll say create a rubric and then, you know, you do the guiding. I want it to be 5 points each, child language. I want it to be at this level. These are the categories, go. And then you can have it format it and you do your cut and paste. You can tweak things. I just like that it gives you this really nice solid base. And then you could say, I love it, or I'm just going to tweak this little thing, or we're off base and let's go again.
Yeah, it's like it's your launch spot. Here's all my ideas in my brain. Now sort this out for me and then let me look at it and I can go from there.
Yeah.
Another thing that I saw with the 4.0, it added 50 more languages that it can understand. And that's another great thing. I do like my back to school home languages for my students. I will translate with chat. Google Translate's fine, but chat just does a better job of writing it for me in the format that I want. And, you know, those parents, it's just so nice that they can see something in their home language as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So that you could take all of your material and then just say, I want to make sure that it's been translated into Italian or whatever it is. Yesterday, I did a translation in Japanese. I don't have those keys on my board.
Right.
So I couldn't have done that, but Chat did it.
Yeah.
And I was just able to say, take this bio, translate it into Japanese, and then I could just cut and paste it. So that was really wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up our conversation, what advice do you have for teachers this summer?
Well, my first advice is take some time, clock out, and enjoy it as much as you can.
Yeah.
Other than that, especially when it comes to AIs, like Ferris Bueller said, the world moves pretty fast. It's going to move whether you want it to move or not, and whether you move with it or not. So embrace it, be creative, have an open mind, open heart, and just know that it makes your life easier. But the engagement and the look in those kids' eyes when they know that you have tailored something for them, it's amazing. So clock out and then be creative and open your heart. Yeah.
Play, play, play.
Yes, play. Yes.
It's fun to just get in there and play. It doesn't even have to be for anything, but just to see its limitations or like, how do you ask it things and stuff. So
make a new friend with a transformer. It's fine,
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to see if it'll plan my summer garden. That's my next thing.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Jessica, for joining me today to discuss practical ways educators can use ChatGPT to save valuable time.
Thank you.
To learn more about Jessica Lyons' ChatGPT courses and certifications, you can go to careerlearning.com/collections/Jessica-Lyons, Lyons. And to reach out to Jessica directly, you can email her at jjlyons2011@live.com, and both links will be in the show notes. The call to action is to learn how to harness ChatGPT's advanced AI capabilities to reclaim that valuable time spent on lesson planning and administrative tasks. If you have a story about what's working in your schools that you'd like to share, you can email me at lisa@drlisarhassler.com or visit my website at www.drlisarhassler.com and send me a message. If you like this podcast, subscribe and tell a friend. The more people that know, the bigger impact it will have. And if you find value to the content in this podcast, consider becoming a supporter by clicking on the supporter link in the show notes. It is the mission of this podcast to shine light on the good in education so that it spreads, affecting positive change. So let's keep working together to find solutions that focus on our children's success.